to some fan fiction or some fan processes. Do you engage with this kind of phenomenon?
Well, we're actually launching our biggest fan fiction contest today on Sweek worldwide. Yeah, definitely, because in the end, what we see with Sweek is that they love reading and writing, but sometimes also different kind of content. So they want to write about celebrities they're following or different alternative endings, etc. And I think fan fiction has been one of the biggest movements in the last, say, 10 years, with fan fiction net starting in the early 2000s. Then, of course, Wattpad had a lot of fan fiction as well, and now we see it on Sweek as well. So yeah, it's something they want to write about. So for them, it's interesting. They can do it serialized, and so it is related.
Yeah, I think it's about what we said before. Gamification now is working so well, on networks. So as a publisher, for millennials, you should include how in your content. And for us, it's really also super challenging to think not just how to use gamification, just to make people interact or play, but also teaching them stuff through gamification. So it can be just a new frontier that can really be stimulating, also for the content provider.
And both business models are apparently really focusing on the mobile somehow. Do you think that mobile is your ecosystem?
Well, actually with us, while we see that about 85–90% of reading is done on mobile, about 40% is still done on the web. So because we do still have a lot of users, 30+.
Diminishing? Okay.
Yeah, so 30% of reading and writing is also done now on the web for the older generation. And what we do see is that, okay, we always say, mobile, etc. But one of our revenue models is self-publishing, because what we see that in the end, and also getting publishing contracts for our authors, because in the end, while these guys are super young, mobile, social, etc., they want to have the physical copy of the book that they helped shaping. So if someone says, and you already have your audience, so what happens is that Sweek author just self-publishes the book or gets the publishing contract and says, hey guys, you helped me shape the story. Without you, well, you are my community. This is the book. Well, go ahead and buy it. And they do it. So while they like reading content for free, they also still like to have the physical copy to give to their friends, family, etc.
It's always the same here also. And are you engineers? Are you engineer?
No, well, my background is business information management, so that was bridging, business and business information. But, as a co-founder, I'm actively involved in product development and other things. So, yeah, you have to be technical. You have to have an affinity with understanding how the apps work.
I was referring now to the UX.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose that you invest a lot on that.
We don't have UX because
you're right. Okay. You have Mark Zuckerberg.
We use a UX that already exists, so that's our politic. But of course, we got internal database system to control the data and our technology team that is quite big actually work mostly on reading data and interpreting data. So that's a daily job for me, checking the data and understand why a content is working.
That's core business for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, for us, tech is also so. On the one hand, of course, you have UX, UI, because the reading experience has to be comfortable. You want to, because for instance, you can choose the fonts, the colors, etc., even dyslexic font, etc. So the reading experience has to be comfortable, otherwise they will just go also the writing somewhere else, so online, offline, etc. But then, since we're a platform, we're also, one of our core things is actually, data and also analyzing it. So, of course, based also on the things we see which are popular or all kind of algorithm we're providing. In the end, we're moving more and more in algorithm, in figuring out functionality which our users would like. So in the end, we're a tech startup, I would say.
I suppose that maybe you have some information about the kind of behavior that your website users and your mobile users have. Any kind of difference that you can identify?
A lot, because we're collecting over, thousands of data points, of course, all anonymized in case GDPR question is coming later. So, of course, it's more about figuring out reading trends and also in different countries. And while, web is more used for writing, with reading and with app, the technology allows you to track, I don't know, did they stop reading after the first chapter or the 15th chapter? Did they go back and discover more stories with the algorithm, etc.? So, yeah, you want to collect a lot of data and know what your users are doing to provide relevant content for them as well, and also to be able to provide values to your partners that you're working with.
This is tricky. Has the European new regulation on data has any impact on your company? What kind of impact?
It has an impact on our life quality for the last week, I think.
Rewriting the privacy policy.
Yeah. Any concerns about that?
No, I mean, not really because we don't use the data of our followers. So.
And for us, it's all anonymized and about figuring out the cluster. So as long as you explain to the users what you're doing and how you're doing, it's not like you cannot collect the data anymore. It's more about explaining to them why, what, and how, and anonymizing it and making sure that if someone wants to, you can delete their data completely.
Okay. Thank you. Any question for these two startups? Yes, please, Salvatore.
Could you tell us a practical example of the use that you do from the feedback that you receive from the user? Just a practical example.
You mean as feedback regarding the book or story, or feedback regarding your product?
Feedback that the people leave on in your case, on a book, on an object that people read. And in the case of Freeda, what about the feedback that the people leave, both on the video?
Well, for us it depends, because of course you have more, leisure readers, so they will say, oh my God, love it, amazing, keep on writing, so which is not very helpful for the writer. They know they like it. But we also with our writing competitions stimulate them to provide critical feedback. So actually we always have some kind of awards for sort of better readers to provide feedback. So then they actually go into quite detail. Okay, this didn't make sense. You should keep on working regarding that, or there was a spelling mistake there. So but this is something we're also actively stirring upon, because of course it's easier to just give a like and say love it, but how to stimulate more serious readers to actually give meaningful feedback and help the writers shape their story. But on average, I think every story has a couple of this kind of I love it comments, but then also more deep into detail comments.
We can have feedbacks that are practical feedback, okay, I would like the video to be slower because I didn't have time to read. And until feedback, there are positive feedback. But when it comes to video and video interviews and video documentary, of course, as we are treating really hot teams, we can have every kind of feedback, racial, feedback, of course, if we're talking about body positive, that is one of the main theme for us. We can have feedbacks that are really sometimes really, really hard to reply. So of course, when you open the content and give the audience the possibility of replying, that can be an issue. I mean, we have a person that spend all day just replying stuff. But that's really interesting, because it's not we don't think we should change the kind of content we propose to the audience just because we need to listen to them. But at the same time, we really have like a relationship with the community, and we know what is going on the other side. And for me, that's really important, because it's not just like we are releasing content and then we don't know what's going on. And that was a bit common in the prior model, when digital media were just adapting content to the internet, but they were not listening to their user every time. I think now with this super direct relationship, we can really improve the quality of the content and be really for us it's learning every day. If we make something or we treat of course now the debate on women is really, really on point. So we really been careful with a lot of things, but for us, it's learning every time and then try to improve the quality of our content.
Okay. Yes, please.
This question is for Veronica, and the question is about, can you provide us sort of a concrete example of how your publishing partners have used the reading data you supply them, or maybe just talk more about it and what they're interested in?
Yeah, okay.
I think that we couldn't hear you very well. Okay. Could you speak a little bit louder?
Sure. This question is for Veronica.
That I got.
And it's about the reading data that you provide your publishing partners. Can you maybe provide a concrete example of how it has been used, or maybe talk more about what they are interested in that area?
Well, right now we've been doing that with the German publishers that we first had writing competitions with, because then in the end, well, they wanted to know how the book was read, etc. And what we always tell them is that we, of course, can give them general reports, so say, I don't know, what's trending or most searchable among young females in Germany, but also, for instance, more specifically, okay, how did the users interact with that particular book? Did they stop reading then and then? Did they follow it? Did they discover it going through other books? So in the end, it of course also depends on the publisher. So they tell us, okay, we're interested in reaching the generation this and this age in this genre.